about the possibility of a comet hitting Los Angeles, the preparations for what they would do if a comet hit Los Angeles, and the comet known as Donald Trump that's hit the United States.
Yes.
And
he's even got the hair.
It just, the whole thing is, I mean, if the end of the world was coming, boy, it's all on the wall. You know, the writing's all there. It's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the latest and the greatest?
Well, the latest and the greatest is, I mean, last year when we sat down with you, I think it was last November.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was almost a year.
Got floated in the discussion the idea that this really important comet research that's going on, which is just changing our whole view of history and prehistory and of the future of humanity, that it would be good to make a film about this and crowdfund it. I actually mentioned that to the scientists, and they said what we really need is more funding for our research. And so they've inspired basically by your show, they have put out a crowdfunding campaign, which is linked on my website. It's the Comet Research Group, and it's a big story right now.
How can people find it really quickly? It's Indiegogo. Comet Research Group.
Much quicker way. Just go to my website, grahamhancock.com, and there's a revolving banner, which is the Comet Research Group. Click on that, and you're in business.
Beautiful. Okay, grahamhancock.com. And then crowdfunding for Comet Research. And so what are they trying to put together?
Well, they're wanting to... You see, the thing is, these guys have actually not had any official funding. This is a group of major, highly credentialed scientists who, for the last decade, have been investigating the extraordinary story of a massive series of comet impacts on the North American ice cap 12,800 years ago. That is the global cataclysm that wipes out a whole civilization from prehistory. So that's why it's of interest to me. They're not coming at it from that point of view. They're coming at it from rediscovering something that we've lost about ourselves. Something is really important to understand the role of cataclysms in the story of the Earth. And they need to do much more research. So they need to go back to Greenland and look for the nanodiamonds in the Greenland ice cores. There's an ancient city, which they're not revealing the name of, which they're pretty certain was wiped out by a comet impact about 4,500 years ago. They want to go there and investigate that. So there's a lot of field work they need to do to drive home this hypothesis and to, frankly, put down the opposition, because there's been so much opposition to this idea from people with vested interest in other theories that, and that's why these guys have not got funding. So the only place they're going to get funding to do this further research is from members of the general public, and that's what we're hoping that will happen. It's called the Comet Research Group. There's a banner on my site, and all the links are there to their crowdfunding, to their website, which is full of masses of scientific information, and to their Facebook page as well.
It is a very unusual thing, the fact that we know that comets and all sorts of various large objects have impacted the Earth. We see the craters, we know they exist, but it's so rarely discussed. It's so strange. If it wasn't for this article in the New York Times, I can't remember when the last time it even came up. And it's such a huge issue.
It's a massive issue. It's a massive issue. Both Randall and I have really, given a great deal of thought to this. And I think, Randall, the point is that catastrophes are the untold story of our past.
We were given a little hint of it. February of 2013, Chelyabinsk, Siberia. Remember the event?
Yeah.
Now, that was just a little cosmic speck. Came in, it was about 50 feet in diameter, which is about, and it came in at a fairly low angle. It blew up nearly 18...
Get that thing right in front of you.
Right in front of me, like this.
Yeah, if you flatten it out, it's usually easier. Like
How's this?
Way.
Is this better?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
There we go.
So it came in, I think it exploded 12 miles, about 20 kilometers up in the atmosphere. But it was still enough to damage thousands of buildings and injure 1,500 people. Now, the thing about that one is if it had been slightly larger, if it had come in at a slightly steeper angle, a little bit higher velocity, you could have had thousands of fatalities rather than just injuries. And that would have been major headline news at that point. As it was, it's already forgotten. But you do remember
yes.
that event over Siberia? We may even have talked about that.
I
think we did, yeah.
I think we even showed videos of it. Well, what's fascinating is Russia has so many of those dash cam cameras.
That's right.
Because they have so much insurance fraud apparently over there, and people slam into each other all the time, and they want to record it. So we're fortunate enough to have so many of those videos because of that.
Which puts it on the record, whereas otherwise it would not be. I think people don't like to talk about cataclysms and catastrophes, and actually nor do I. Nobody wants a horrible cataclysm to occur, but this is the point, which is that the prospect of a comet or asteroid cataclysm on the Earth is actually much higher than has been told to us up till now, and something can be done about it. It doesn't have to be the end of the world. We don't have to, say, okay, it's all over, forget about it. Quite the contrary. This is just something that would be prudent and rational for the human species to do. And amongst many other imprudent and irrational things that we focus on instead, we should be focusing on a bit on this.
Well, at least just to heighten awareness of it, and also the possibility that we've been nailed a bunch of times and we've forgotten about it. And this is the big thing that you've been dealing with your entire career.
Yeah.
This skepticism about past civilizations. I
Yes.
mean, I got into it with Michael Shermer, who's a friend of mine, who's a very famous skeptic. I got
know.
into him with it yesterday. Because I posted that you were going to be on, and he started chirping something about civilizations 12,000 years ago. Where's the evidence? I'm like, dude, you're saying this, and you don't even know about Göbekli Tepe. So
Right.
I sent him Göbekli Tepe, and literally like 5 hours later, he wrote something claiming that, well, that was made by hunter-gatherers. It was all just really to sort of suit his narrative.
See,
but he
that-
doesn't know that. No one knows that.
Nobody knows that. They're so determined to keep the existing
Exactly.
model. And when new evidence comes in which can't be explained by the existing model, they just try to explain away the new evidence and not think maybe it's time to change our theory. This is the unfortunate thing. But cataclysms, a global cataclysm, the massive event that happened 12,800 years ago, the Younger Dryas impacts, which were a series of comet impacts on the North American ice cap. This accounts for why we don't have a lot of evidence, hard evidence of a 12,000 plus year old civilization, because it went down in that catastrophe. It was wiped out.
I've been trying to amass the evidence, actually, that complements what Graham is doing, and it really answers that question that Shermer brought up. And it's a legitimate question. Where's the evidence? But I'm quite sure that Shermer is not really educated in the extreme events that have really taken place on this planet in the last 10 to 20,000 years, and what that would do to any kind of evidence. And maybe while we have some time here today, I've brought a few things to try to convey some sense of how extreme some of these changes have been, and how one would actually be quite shocked to find anything existing in the aftermath of these events.
Well, Michael Shermer's a brilliant guy.
Sure.
And I don't mean to shit on him, but what is disturbing to me is that his knee-jerk reaction to this, without having any research at all in the subject, not knowing at all about Göbekli Tepe, which was discovered in, the 90s?
Yeah. 96.
So this is, to me, this is something that I've looked at because of you guys in great depth. When I read your book, I was just completely enthralled with this idea of history having some sort of a rise and fall, and civilization having these resets. So I've been absorbed in it for a long time. But what's fascinating to me is people that consider themselves to be skeptical, or he's a skeptic professionally.
Sure.
But many people who question anything that's outside of what they've been told, as soon as they hear